The vastness of the grand convocation chamber of the Lumina conquered was not merely an architectural feat of iridescent alloys and crystalline spires reaching towards a simulated nebula. It was a physical manifestation of galactic unity, a silent testament to cycles of conflict transcended, and a living echo of the myriad species whose collective will had forged this fragile peace. Within its echoing expanse, the air, meticulously filtered to suit hundreds of biologies, crackled with an unseen static of escalating dread. Chancellor Valeria, her luminescent tendrils rippling with a pale, inner disquiet that betrayed her usual stoicism, stood at the central holoplinth, her multifaceted eyes scanning the assembled delegates. Each species, arrayed in their designated, culturally resonant sections, presented a unique posture of apprehension, their varied forms absorbing the grim projections flickering across the chamber's colossal central display. On the projection, a vector, impossibly fast, impossibly dense with unknown energy signatures, carved a scar across the celestial chart, moving with the cold, relentless precision of a predator towards the very core systems of the conquered. The trajectory is unchanged, Valeria's voice, modulated through the universal translator to carry the weight of her species' ancient wisdom, resonated with a deep, almost mournful timbre. It has disregarded all hails, all warnings. Our deepest perimeter defense nodes, dormant for cycles, were activated instantaneously, yet yielded no response beyond a momentary, insignificant ripple in its energy field. It appears impervious to our interdictor pulses, our gravnets. It simply moves. Her tendrils, usually a vibrant azure, pulsed a subdued violet, a species-specific indicator of profound stress. The assembled delegates shifted, a symphony of rustles, clicks, and low guttural exhalations filling the momentary silence. From the section reserved for the Catharan ascendancy, a sharp, chitinous voice broke the tension. Envoy Cathar, his segmented carapace gleaming under the chamber's ambient light, slammed a clawed appendage onto his personal console. This cannot be tolerated, Chancellor. For cycles, the Conquered has maintained strict protocols for unregistered stellar objects. For millennia, we have defended these routes, these very core systems, from any intrusion. This object violates every single one of those tenets. Our reconnaissance probes, designed to withstand stellar flare points, have been annihilated, their data streams truncated to a single, impossible energy spike. This is an act of aggression, whether intentional or not, and demands a decisive, overwhelming response. Cathar's mandibles clicked furiously, a visible sign of his species, characteristic impatience and their deep-seated distrust of the unknown. His eyes, compound and multifaceted, darted across the chamber, challenging any who would dare to disagree with his hawkish stance. Beside him, Scholar Rilksar, a venerable Zelosian whose arboreal form stretched towards the chamber's distant ceiling, slowly unfurled a frond-like limb. His voice, a soft, rustling chorus of ancient fibers, was a balm against Cathar's harsh pronouncements. Aggression, envoy, or desperation, ignorance, or a form of communication we are yet to comprehend. The rapid destruction of our probes speaks not necessarily to malicious intent, but to an energy signature, an operational field, utterly beyond our current understanding. To brand it aggression is to project our own fears onto an entity that, by all available data, appears to operate under entirely different physical laws, or at least, a profoundly different technological paradigm. We must remember the cycles of the Great Forgetting, when our ancestors, driven by similar fear, almost eradicated nascent species out of misunderstanding. Rilksar's deep-rooted patience was a characteristic of his species, who measured their lives in millennia and had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "And what of the Sol 3 designation, Scholar?" Cathar retorted, his voice dripping with barely concealed contempt. "Our archives, as sparse and fragmented as they are regarding this insignificant stellar system, indicate a species of profound isolation. A species that, despite achieving warp capability within recent memory, has systematically ignored every single overture, every invitation to the Conquered's regular interstellar convocations. They have declined to participate in galactic governance, in shared resource management, in the very cultural exchange that forms the bedrock of our peace. They are an enigma, yes, but an arrogant one, an entity that has deliberately chosen to remain outside the communal embrace. Is this not a pattern of behavior that suggests a deep-seated contempt for our established order?" The Catharan envoy punctuated his statement with a series of agitated clicks, his lower body shifting restlessly. Valeria interceded, her voice regaining a fraction of its former steadiness. The Sol 3 designation is indeed pertinent. Our deep space observatories, those few operating within the designated unassigned sectors, detected an anomalous energy signature emanating from that system just a few of your standard cycles ago. It was dismissed then as an experimental FTL drive, perhaps a localized jump, nothing that indicated a capacity for this. For a transgalactic trajectory of this magnitude, the scale of the energy readings from the current approaching object, they are without precedent in all our recorded history. Our theoretical physicists are bewildered, unable to reconcile the sheer power output with any known propulsive method, or even the theoretical maximums allowed by classical physics. It's as if an entire star has been harnessed, yet contained. The holographic projection behind her shimmered, highlighting the unnerving anomaly. And what of the nature of this species, this humanity? Speaker Zephyr of the Aryan, his iridescent feathers rustling softly, contributed, his voice a melodic series of chimes that soothed the agitated K-Theron. Their historical records, those we could extrapolate from their long-range broadcasts, speak of a species capable of both immense savagery and profound compassion. They warred amongst themselves with terrifying efficacy for millennia, yet also forged instruments of unparalleled beauty and philosophical depth. They are a species of contradictions. Their initial, hesitant steps into the cosmos were observed, documented, then largely disregarded as they remained within their solar nursery, cloistered. We assumed a slower, more deliberate developmental path. We assumed they were limited. Clearly, our assumptions were gravely flawed. Zephyr tilted his head, his large, intelligent eyes fixed on the approaching trajectory, a thoughtful frown etched upon his avian features. Limited is an understatement, Cathar growled. They were deemed non-viable for rapid galactic integration. Their homeworld, by early assessments, was considered resource poor for advanced FTL development. Their political structures fractured. Their biological lifespan brief. Their psychological profiles, as extrapolated from their primitive data networks, suggested a propensity for irrationality, emotion-driven decision-making. How could such a species develop something of this magnitude, something that defies our most advanced calculations, without any preceding detectable buildup? Without any warning, he struck his console again, a percussive rhythm of growing panic. It is a weapon. It must be. A species that has chosen to remain outside the fold to withhold its existence from us, then appears with such devastating power. What other conclusion is there? Rilksar's fronds swayed, a slow, deliberate movement. Perhaps, Envoy, their very limitations were their strength. Perhaps their brief lifespans, as you term them, instilled within them a sense of urgency, a drive to achieve, to progress, that we, with our longer, more measured existences, cannot fully grasp. Perhaps their fractured political structures spurred a competitive innovation, a desperate push to overcome scarcity that drove them beyond conventional limits. And perhaps their emotionality fostered a different kind of logic, one that is not cold and calculated, but intensely motivated by principles we have yet to discern. We have seen, throughout galactic history, that those who are initially underestimated often hold the most profound surprises. His eyes, like polished obsidian, reflected the grim light of the holocharts. Valeria sighed, a barely perceptible exhalation that nevertheless carried the weariness of her office. We must prepare for all eventualities, but also avoid the fatal flaw of prejudice. The data is clear. This object, whatever its purpose, is now within our inner defense perimeter. Its projected arrival point is less than one standard cycle away. Its destination, the orbital plane above Xylos Prime, the very heart of the Concord's intellectual and historical archives. A deliberate choice or a chilling coincidence? The K-Theron fleets have been placed on highest alert. The Lumina defense platforms have engaged their grav shields. The Aryan interceptor wings are poised, but our tactical projections are grim. Against an energy signature of this magnitude, our combined might is, by all simulations, inadequate. This is not a conventional conflict. This is something entirely new. The weight of her words hung heavy, a shroud over the chamber. The fear was no longer abstract. It was a cold, tangible presence, reaching for the collective heart of the conquered. The silence that followed was broken only by the faint, rhythmic thrum of the chamber's life support, a stark counterpoint to the impending cosmic storm. The next moment stretched into an eternity, each tick of the galactic chronometer amplifying the suffocating dread within the grand convocation chamber. The glowing vector on the central display, once a distant point of concern, had swollen into a discernible, if still utterly alien, form. It was colossal, not merely large, but gargantuan, dwarfing any known construction, radiating an aura of raw, unfathomable power. Sensor readings, once chaotic and incomprehensible, began to coalesce into terrifyingly precise data points. The object was decelerating, not through the gradual application of retro thrusters, but through some intrinsic manipulation of spacetime around it, bleeding off velocity with an effortless grace that defied the sheer mass it possessed. The sheer audacity of its presence, ignoring all pleas, all threats, all established protocols, was a silent scream of defiance that echoed in the hearts of every delegate. "The energy readings are stabilizing," a junior Lumina technician reported, his voice thin and strained through the comlink. "But at a level that should be impossible. Its deceleration field is collapsing local spacetime, creating microsingularities that dissipate its momentum. The gravitational distortions are immense. We are detecting 1,000 distinct energy signatures within its hull. Not 1,000 engines as we understand them, but 1,000 discrete power sources, each operating at a magnitude that could power a system. It is a star forge contained." The revelation, delivered with such detached scientific precision, was met with a collective, horrified intake of breath. 1,000 engines burned. The phrase resonated with a chilling finality. It was not mere hyperbole. It was a literal, terrifying fact. Catharan envoy Cathar slammed his claw onto his console again, the sound sharp and jarring. "A starforge? A mobile starforge? This is no mere vessel, Chancellor. This is an existential threat, a weapon of planetary annihilation disguised as a ship. We must activate the Omega Protocol, scour the system, risk collateral damage. We cannot allow such a monstrous capability to simply park itself above a conquered core world." His compound eyes swiveled wildly, his rage a tangible force within his section. "And what precisely would the Omega Protocol achieve against this?" Valeria asked, her voice calm, though the violet pulsations on her tendrils intensified. "Our Omega Protocol, designed for rogue stellar entities, would merely be absorbed by its energy field, or worse, trigger an unpredictable cascade reaction that could devastate Xylo's Prime. We are not facing an enemy we can simply outgun. We are facing a phenomenon, a paradox of physics, and its intent remains utterly unknown." Scholar Rilksar, his ancient fronds drooping slightly, spoke, his voice a dry rustle. "The destination Xylo's Prime, my homeworld, the greatest library of the galaxy. If it truly possessed malicious intent, it could have annihilated us from light years away or simply plunged us into a dark matter anomaly. The precision of its approach, the careful, deliberate deceleration, these are not the actions of a wanton destroyer. These are the actions of a surveyor, an observer, or perhaps a visitor." Speaker Zephyr of the Aryan, having regained his composure, soared slightly above his perch. "Its silence, too, is a form of communication, a deliberate withholding, a message of absolute confidence. It knows we cannot touch it. It knows we are powerless before its passage. This is a demonstration, not of force, but of an undeniable truth. They are here, and they are utterly beyond our current understanding of power." The hollow display flickered, then stabilized. The object was now clearly visible, a colossal, matte-black monolith against the swirling nebulae of the chamber's ceiling. It was not sleek, not adorned with the typical graceful lines of conquered vessels. It was raw, functional, brutalist in its geometric purity. And from its underbelly, radiating outwards like a halo of controlled fury, pulsed an intricate network of light. 1,000 discrete points of blinding energy, each a miniature sun, burning with an impossible intensity. The 1,000 engines burned not with uncontrolled chaos, but with a silent, terrifying, controlled majesty. The sheer spectacle was enough to cause delegates to recoil, a primal fear of such overwhelming alien power washing over them. "It is positioning itself," the technician's voice crackled again, now laced with a raw, primal terror. "It has achieved geosynchronous orbit above Xylo's Prime. It is perfectly stationary. Its shadow now falls upon the continent of ancient libraries. The atmospheric displacement is minimal. Its gravitational signature is being actively suppressed, preventing any planetary disruption. It is a precision strike of peace." The technician's voice trailed off, unable to reconcile the data. An immense, suffocating silence descended upon the chamber. The colossal image of the alien vessel, serene and terrifying in its orbit, dominated all perception. The conquered fleets, poised for a battle they knew they could not win, remained frozen, their weapons useless against such an insurmountable presence. The philosophical debates, the political fears, the very concept of galactic order, all seemed trivial, utterly meaningless in the face of this silent, burning leviathan. It had come, not with fanfare, not with diplomacy, but with an irrefutable declaration of its existence, etched in pure, unbridled power. Earth, the silent, unknown world, had finally arrived, and it had parked above them. Then a ripple, not from the vast vessel, but from within the chamber itself. A soft, clear tone, unexpected, yet somehow anticipated, cut through the dread. It wasn't a Catharan challenge, nor a Lumina decree. It was an external signal projected directly into the chamber's secure communication network, bypassing all known firewalls, all encryption. It was a perfect, modulated wave of energy, carrying within it the unmistakable signature of the approaching Leviathan. Every translator in the chamber activated simultaneously, its internal diagnostics whirring with unfamiliar linguistic patterns, struggling to parse and contextualize a language never before encountered in a diplomatic setting. The tension, already unbearable, ascended to a new, sharper apex. The tone repeated, a simple, rhythmic pulse. Then a voice, calm, clear, unflustered. It carried no discernible emotion, no hint of threat or dominance, merely an objective, almost detached professionalism. The words once translated resonated through the chamber, each syllable falling with the weight of unforeseen history. Galactic conquered of Lumina. This is the vessel Arbiter, designated by its operators as Earth-ship Arbiter. We acknowledge your established communication protocols and extend our initial greetings. We understand our arrival trajectory was unannounced and has caused considerable apprehension. For this, we offer our sincere apologies, as the exigencies of our journey necessitated a direct approach without preliminary diplomatic overtures, which we acknowledge is a significant departure from established interstellar conduct. We assure you, our intent is not hostile. We are not here to wage war, nor to establish dominance, nor to claim territory. We are here, finally, to engage, and to share critical information that, in our assessment, demands immediate, unified consideration across all established galactic polities. A collective gasp swept through the chamber, a mosaic of species reacting with stunned disbelief. Not a threat, not a demand, an apology, and an offer. The words were delivered with a precise, almost clinical cadence, yet carried an undeniable undertone of earnestness, of profound purpose. Envoy Cathar, momentarily disarmed, stammered, his mandibles twitching. Apologies? After such an egregious violation, after demonstrating a power that eclipses our entire defense network, this is an insult, a mockery. Envoy, silence, Valeria commanded, her voice sharper than any delegate had ever heard. Her luminescent tendrils pulsed a steady, curious azure. The human message, so utterly devoid of the expected arrogance or aggression, had opened a chasm of possibilities she had not dared to contemplate. They speak of exigencies of journey, of critical information, and of unified consideration. These are not the words of conquerors, Cathar. These are the words of diplomats. Scholar Rilksar, his fronds now unfurling in a gesture of profound curiosity, rustled excitedly. And the Earth-ship Arbiter. Earth is the designation for Sol 3. They call themselves humanity, the species we so readily dismissed as a minor, developing entity prone to irrationality. It seems we have made a catastrophic miscalculation. His ancient, wise eyes glittered with a sudden, overwhelming intellectual hunger. The human voice resumed, now with a slightly more personal cadence, though still maintaining its profound gravitas. We are aware of our historical absence from galactic affairs. This was a deliberate, long-term policy born not of indifference, but of a deeply held ethical imperative. We observed the myriad conflicts, the resource wars, the diplomatic stalemates that characterized early galactic integration attempts across the known sectors. We concluded that a species, before engaging with a vast interstellar community, had a moral obligation to first address and resolve its own internal divisions, to overcome its inherent destructive tendencies, and to achieve a societal maturity that would allow it to contribute positively, rather than merely replicate its internal struggles on a grander, more devastating scale. Our journey of self-mastery, of technological and philosophical introspection, consumed our species' efforts for many millennia, a period during which our existence was indeed largely cloistered, focused inward. We chose isolation to become ready, not to avoid responsibility. This revelation, so starkly presented, struck the conquered delegates with the force of a physical blow. The unspoken assumption, the universal galactic consensus, was that rapid expansion, resource acquisition, and the forging of alliances through necessity were the driving forces of interstellar evolution. Humanity, it seemed, had chosen a path of self-imposed solitude, not out of weakness or arrogance, but from a profound sense of self-awareness and an almost ascetic dedication to ethical development. It was a concept so alien to the conquered's history, yet so undeniably noble. Such a philosophy, Speaker Zephyr murmured, his chimes softer, more reflective. To restrain ambition for the sake of internal purity, to prioritize self-perfection over expansion, it is a path few, if any, of our species have ever truly considered, much less implemented on a planetary scale. He looked towards Valeria, his intelligent eyes wide with dawning comprehension. They are not what we assumed, not simple barbarians, not cunning opportunists. They are something else. The human voice continued, its tone unwavering. We monitored your advancements, your diplomatic efforts, your challenges. We observed your Concord's formation with keen interest, recognizing its inherent value in mitigating interstellar strife. We understood the difficulty, the necessity of such a collective, and we recognized that the time for our engagement, for our contribution, had finally arrived. Not because we were ready for war, but because the stakes, for the entire sentient community, have now escalated beyond any local conflict or regional dispute. The urgency of this matter superseded our historical protocols for gradual introduction. Our vessel, the Arbiter, is precisely that, an arbiter of a coming cosmic truth and a platform for its necessary resolution. The 1,000 engines burned, not for aggression, but for this very purpose, to enable a rapid, unprecedented traverse and to sustain the immense operational requirements of our primary mission. The raw implications of this statement rippled through the chamber like an electric current. They hadn't come for themselves, but for them, for the galaxy, and with a sense of urgency so profound it had overridden millennia of self-imposed isolation. The silence now was not one of fear, but of profound, bewildered contemplation. The initial terror began to recede, replaced by a dawning sense of awe and an unsettling curiosity. What cosmic truth could be so profound, so devastating, that a species would shatter its isolation with such a display of power, merely to deliver a warning? Valeria, her posture now upright, her tendrils of vibrant, curious azure, spoke, her voice echoing the human's calm professionalism. Earthship Arbiter, this is Chancellor Valeria of the Lumina Concord. We hear your message. We acknowledge your apologies, and we appreciate the explanation of your species' philosophical journey. While the scale of your arrival remains deeply unsettling, your words suggest a purpose that transcends the immediate threat. We are prepared to receive a diplomatic delegation. We wish to understand the critical information you speak of, and we are prepared to listen. Our primary diplomatic chamber, located on Xylos Prime, will be prepared for your representatives. Your orbital position, while unprecedented, is being monitored not with hostility but with anticipation. We await your next communication. She looked across the chamber, her gaze lingering on Cathar and Rilxar, a silent challenge in her multifaceted eyes. The game had changed. And humanity had just dealt the first unexpected hand. The response from the Arbiter was swift, almost immediate, yet retained that unsettling calm. Understood, Chancellor Valeria. We appreciate your willingness to engage despite the unconventional nature of our arrival. Our diplomatic team is prepared for immediate transit. Please designate your preferred docking zone or transmat coordinates. We will adhere to all local atmospheric and environmental protocols to ensure no undue disturbance to Xylos Prime. Our intention is to facilitate a transparent and productive exchange. We anticipate this will be an unprecedented moment of shared understanding for our diverse species. The voice concluded, and a new layer of silence fell upon the chamber, thicker, more profound than before, imbued now with a strange mix of apprehension and profound expectation. Chancellor Valeria moved with a newfound energy, her tendrils a steady, brilliant azure. Prepare the grand diplomatic nexus on Xylos Prime immediately. Allocate the primary receiving platform. Ensure all environmental filters are calibrated for a broad spectrum of atmospheric and biological requirements. No security forces are to be visible or overtly armed in the nexus. Let our first physical contact be one of openness, not suspicion. She issued the commands with an authority that brooked no debate, her gaze sweeping the assembly, ensuring her message was understood. Cathar still bristled, a low, agitated hum emanating from his segmented frame, but even he remained silent, perhaps recognizing the futility of protest against such an undeniable, overwhelming presence. From the Arbiter, a single, slender craft detached itself from the colossal vessel, dropping with an almost imperceptible grace through the upper atmosphere of Xylos Prime. It was not a warship, nor a shuttle of opulent design, but a conveyance of stark, minimalist efficiency, gleaming with an inner light that seemed to draw from the same inexplicable energy source as its parent ship. It shimmered with an advanced stealth field, yet it made no attempt to hide its presence, merely softened its impact on the planet's delicate ecosystem. The craft descended silently, then hovered directly over the designated landing platform within the Grand Diplomatic Nexus, a vast circular plaza open to the filtered Zalosian skies. It touched down with a feather-light precision, barely disturbing the fine, crystalline dust on the platform's surface. The ramp extended, not with a mechanical hiss, but with a silent, elegant unfolding. From within, 3 figures emerged. They were bipedal, relatively tall, with a balanced musculature and a skin tone that varied across the spectrum of their species. Their attire was simple, functional, devoid of any ostentatious display of rank or wealth. It consisted of a close-fitting, seamless fabric that seemed to shift subtly in hue, adapting to the ambient light, yet somehow absorbing it. 2 of them wore no visible insignia. The third, a human of mature years with an air of quiet authority, had a single, complex symbol embroidered on their collar, a stylized representation of a star within a sheltering sphere. This, Velaria intuited, must be their primary envoy. They moved with an unhurried, almost serene confidence, their gazes sweeping across the assembled, conquered representatives with an analytical yet open curiosity. Their eyes, varying in color, held a depth that Velaria found profoundly unsettling, yet undeniably captivating. There was no fear in them, no arrogance, only a calm, unwavering presence. Chancellor Velaria, accompanied by Scholar Rilksar and Speaker Zephyr, stepped forward onto the landing platform. Envoy Cathar remained in the main chamber, observing through a live feed, his disapproval a palpable, if distant, hum. The primary human envoy stopped a respectful distance away, then performed a gesture that Velaria later learned was a universal human greeting, a slight inclination of the head and an open hand placed over the chest. It was a gesture of respect and vulnerability, utterly devoid of any perceived threat. Chancellor Velaria, the human voice, now richer and more resonant without the filter of interstellar communication, addressed her directly. I am Ambassador Anya Sharma, lead representative for humanity. These are my colleagues, data specialist Kenji Tanaka and linguistic architect Dr. Alara Vance. We are profoundly grateful for your willingness to receive us and for your forbearance regarding our unorthodox introduction. We understand the gravity of the questions that must now weigh upon your collective consciousness. Ambassador Sharma's eyes, a deep, intelligent brown, held Velaria's gaze without wavering. There was a quiet strength in her demeanor, a deep, almost ancient wisdom that seemed to contradict her species' relatively short lifespan. Velaria, her luminescent tendrils rippling a polite green, reciprocated the gesture of respect, albeit in her own species' manner, a slight bow of her upper torso. Ambassador Sharma, welcome to Xylos Prime. We admit your arrival has reshaped much of our understanding of galactic dynamics. Your explanations, while intriguing, have also raised a multitude of further questions. We seek clarity. We seek understanding. And above all, we seek the critical information you mentioned, the exigency that compelled such a profound breaking of your species, long-standing isolation. Ambassador Sharma nodded slowly. Indeed, that is precisely why we are here. Our species has, for millennia, dedicated itself to a comprehensive understanding of the cosmos, not merely for expansion, but for the inherent philosophical and existential truths it contains. Our isolation was in part a period of profound observation, of listening to the deep cosmic hums that pervade the intergalactic voids. And what we discovered, what we learned to discern from the background radiation and the subtle manipulations of spacetime, is a looming threat that concerns not just your conquered, but every sentient civilization within our galactic cluster. Her words, delivered with such calm certainty, sent a shiver through Velaria. The human diplomat did not use hyperbole or dramatic pronouncements. Her tone was factual, grave, utterly devoid of flourish. A threat, Scholar Rilksar rustled, his fronds trembling slightly. We have extensive arrays of deep space monitoring, Ambassador. Our stellar cartography project has cataloged millions of anomalies, but nothing that suggests an existential, unified threat to the entire cluster. What could possibly have escaped our collective, centuries-long vigilance? Ambassador Sharma turned her gaze to Rilksar, a subtle warmth entering her eyes, as if recognizing a kindred spirit. Scholar, your methods are exemplary within the parameters of what is detectable through conventional means. Humanity, however, learned to listen to the whispers between the stars. Our 1,000 engines are not merely for propulsion. They are also for generating specific, localized spacetime distortions that allowed us to detect and analyze phenomena that register far below the threshold of standard instruments. During our period of intense, self-imposed scientific and philosophical advancement, we developed a unique approach to cosmic observation, focusing on the subtlest of deviations in the fabric of reality itself. And what we found is an insidious, silent decay. Dr. Alara Vance, the linguistic architect, stepped forward, her voice clear and precise. Imagine, if you will, the fundamental constants of physics as the interwoven threads of a cosmic tapestry. We have detected a slow yet accelerating unraveling of these threads, a systemic degradation of the very rules that govern interstellar travel and long-term stellar stability within our galactic arm. It is not an enemy with fleets or weapons. It is a fundamental entropy, an accelerated decay of spacetime coherence that will, within a few short millennia, render all conventional FTL travel impossible, tear apart established stellar systems, and eventually lead to a cascade collapse of localized galactic clusters. The full implications of her words crashed down upon Valeria and the other delegates. A physical enemy, a rogue empire, even a natural cosmic disaster. These were concepts they could comprehend, could fight, could flee. But an unraveling of reality itself, a decay of the very laws of physics. This was a nightmare of an entirely different order, an insidious, inescapable doom. Impossible, Cathar's voice, filtered through the comms, was laced with raw disbelief and fear. Our instruments would detect such a fundamental shift. Our predictive models, our most advanced theoretical physicists, they have never suggested such a catastrophe. Ambassador Sharma acknowledged Cathar's unseen outburst with a calm expression. Envoy, your models are based on the observable, the energetic. Our detection method relies on a much more subtle quantum-level resonance, an almost imperceptible vibration, in the fabric of reality itself, that only amplifies when subjected to the kind of controlled spacetime manipulation our arbiter is capable of. Think of it as listening for the minute creaks and groans of a vast, ancient structure that is slowly, subtly, beginning to fracture beneath your feet, even as its visible superstructure appears intact. Kenji Tanaka, the data specialist, activated a portable holographic projector. A swirling, complex visualization filled the space between the humans and the conquered delegates. It was not a star chart, but a complex, multi-layered representation of spacetime itself, depicted as an intricate web of luminous threads. In certain regions, the threads shimmered, growing fainter, more chaotic, then abruptly severing in a silent, localized collapse. These are our projected decay zones, Tanaka explained, his voice equally calm and precise. The red zones indicate areas where FTL travel will become unstable and eventually impossible within your standard millennium. The deeper purple zones represent regions of fundamental cosmic instability, where stellar systems themselves will experience catastrophic gravitational fluctuations. The rate of decay is not linear, it is accelerating. Our most conservative projections indicate that within 5 to 7 millennia, the entire galactic cluster will become a graveyard of incoherent matter, utterly devoid of the conditions necessary for advanced life, or indeed, any organized matter above a subatomic level. The silence that followed was absolute, heavier than any previous dread. The threat was not from a foreign power. It was from the universe itself, slowly consuming them from within. The grandiosity of the conquered, its intricate politics, its advanced technology, all rendered utterly meaningless in the face of such a cosmic truth. Valeria felt a profound chill seep into her luminescent tendrils. 5 to 7 millennia, for species that measure their lives in centuries, that is an incomprehensible span. But for the Zalosians, for my own ancient species, that is a blink, a fraction of our recorded history, and for the universe itself, an instant. She turned her multifaceted eyes to Ambassador Sharma, a new, deeper respect dawning within her. And you, humanity, detected this. And you broke your millennia-long isolation and dedicated the power of 1,000 burning engines for this purpose, to warn us. What is your solution, Ambassador? For surely you would not present such a devastating truth without a glimmer of hope, without a strategy to mitigate this cosmic entropy. Ambassador Sharma's eyes held a subtle, almost imperceptible softening. Chancellor, we have not come here merely to deliver a death sentence. Humanity, in its isolation, was forced to confront the ultimate existential threat, the death of its own star, a cycle that, by cosmic standards, would occur long before the current galactic decay accelerated. This unique challenge drove our species to innovate in ways that were fundamentally different from the paths pursued by expanding galactic empires. We learned not to conquer, but to adapt, not to expand, but to preserve. And in doing so, we unlocked methods of manipulating reality at a level that allows us to not only detect this universal decay, but to offer a means of mitigating its effects within designated protective zones. The 1,000 engines burned not just to bring us here, but to power the largest engineering project ever conceived. A project that, with the combined might of the conquered, might just safeguard a significant portion of our galactic cluster and preserve the myriad of life within it. Her words, though still calm, resonated with a powerful, unspoken hope, a beacon in the face of cosmic despair. The sheer scale of the revelation left the grand convocation chamber in a state of stunned disbelief, bordering on intellectual paralysis. A universal decay, a silent, pervasive entropy slowly unraveling the very fabric of spacetime. It was a concept so utterly alien to the conquered's established understanding of physics and cosmology that it took several long, agonizing moments for its implications to truly sink in. The holographic projections from Kenji Tanaka's device continued to ripple, showing the insidious, creeping decay of the cosmic tapestry, each fading thread a death knell for countless systems, for entire civilizations. Envoy Cathar's voice, when it finally broke the suffocating silence, was uncharacteristically subdued, stripped of its usual bravado. Such a claim, it is unfathomable. Our ancient records speak of cosmic events, of stellar collapses, of localized dark matter surges. But a systemic, universal unraveling. Our deep space observatories, our most advanced algorithms for detecting fluctuations in gravitational constants, in background radiation, they have yielded no such data. Are you certain, Ambassador? Is this not some highly localized phenomenon, perhaps unique to your own stellar neighborhood, extrapolated to a galactic scale? His tone was still tinged with suspicion, but laced now with a profound, primal fear. Ambassador Sharma met Cathar's invisible gaze through the comlink. Envoy, your species, like many others, focuses on the energetic, the observable. Our method, as Dr. Vance explained, measures the quantum coherence of spacetime itself. Think of the universe as an incredibly complex, finely tuned instrument. You detect the notes that are played, the melodies that echo through the cosmos. We learn to detect the subtle tuning of that instrument, the infinitesimal drift in its fundamental calibration. Your instruments are designed to detect a physical tear in the fabric. Ours are designed to detect a stress fracture, long before it manifests as a visible rupture. Our models, developed over millennia of isolation, calibrated against hundreds of thousands of independent data points, predict a cascading failure that will affect our entire galactic arm and likely beyond. We have provided you with a vast repository of raw data, algorithms, and observational methodologies, already uploaded to your conquered secure network. I invite your most gifted quantum physicists and cosmological theorists to analyze it. They will find its veracity undeniable. Scholar Rilksar, his fronds now fully unfurled, a gesture of profound respect and intellectual engagement, rustled softly. The data, it is indeed being analyzed. Our Zylosian scholars, with their unique perspectives on long-term cosmic phenomena, are already reporting significant corroboration. The quantum coherence fluctuations you describe, while minuscule, are indeed present. Our own instruments, when recalibrated to your parameters, are beginning to register them. It is as if we were deaf to a symphony, and you have provided us with the missing frequency. This is a revelation that utterly redefines our understanding of existence. His voice was filled with a mix of terror and awe, a scholar's delight at discovering a new truth, however devastating. Speaker Zephyr's melodic voice, usually so composed, now held a tremor of disbelief. And your solution, Ambassador? You spoke of mitigation, of designated protective zones. What grand project could possibly contend with the unraveling of reality itself? Ambassador Sharma gestured towards data specialist Kenji Tanaka, who activated another holographic projection. This new image was breathtaking in its scope. It depicted vast, interconnected geometric structures, ethereal and glowing, spanning not just systems, but entire constellations. They resembled intricate gossamer webs of light, anchoring themselves around stable stellar nurseries and nascent black holes, radiating a steady, stabilizing energy. For the past 500 of your standard cycles, humanity has been developing what we term the Aegis network, Tanaka explained, his voice even and calm, despite the enormity of the concept he was presenting. This network consists of interconnected spacetime stabilizers. These are colossal, self-replicating constructs, each powered by a contained star fusion core. The very 1,000 engines that brought the Arbiter here are prototypes, scaled-down versions of these network nodes. These nodes, when activated in concert, generate localized coherence fields that actively counteract the entropic decay, effectively creating stable bubbles of coherent spacetime within the collapsing galactic fabric. Our projections show that a sufficiently robust and interconnected Aegis network, strategically placed, can safeguard a significant percentage of sentient life and established infrastructure within this galactic cluster. The Arbiter itself, Ambassador Sharma added, is not merely a transport. It is a mobile construction platform, a rapid deployment unit for the initial nodes of this network. Its immense power core, the very 1,000 engines burned you detected, is designed to generate the precise energetic frequencies required to initiate the first, foundational stabilizers. We have arrived directly at the heart of the Conquered, because our data indicates this region is a critical nexus point for the network's optimal expansion, a region whose early stabilization is paramount. The audacity of the plan, the sheer scale of the engineering, and the profound selflessness of a species dedicating its entire technological might to save not just itself, but the entire galactic cluster, was almost too much for the Conquered delegates to process. This wasn't just advanced technology. This was an entirely different philosophy of existence, born of an introspection and a long-term vision that had utterly bypassed the Conquered's own developmental path. "And the cost?" Valeria asked, her voice hushed. "The resources required for such a project, they must be astronomical, not merely materials but the sheer intellectual and spiritual investment. For centuries, your species has worked in isolation on this for us." Her tendrils pulsed a vibrant, almost painful shade of violet, a mix of awe and deep humility. Ambassador Sharma's gaze held hers. "The cost, Chancellor, is everything. Our entire species' effort, our accumulated knowledge, our very future has been poured into this endeavor. We chose this path because we believe in the intrinsic value of sentient life, regardless of its origin. We believe that to confront an existential threat of this magnitude, the only truly ethical response is collective action, a unified struggle against a common, ultimate foe. We have come not to demand resources, but to offer our expertise, our technology, and our unyielding dedication. We seek your cooperation, your unique knowledge of diverse stellar systems, your access to materials we may not yet have cataloged, and most importantly, your collective will. This is not a human project alone. This is a project for all life in this cluster." The Grand Convocation Chamber, so often a theater of political maneuvering and self-serving ambition, now resonated with a profound, almost spiritual stillness. The sheer moral weight of humanity's revelation and their subsequent offer was crushing. They hadn't come to conquer with their incomprehensible power, but to save. They hadn't arrived with demands, but with a gift, the gift of extended existence, of a fighting chance against an otherwise inevitable doom. The image of the Arbiter, previously a symbol of terrifying, inscrutable power, now transformed in the collective consciousness into a monumental arc, a beacon of hope against the cosmic night. The 1,000 engines burned not for destruction, but for the preservation of all. Envoy Cathar, his image on the comm screen, remained silent for a long moment. His hard, chitinous face, usually a mask of unyielding resolve, seemed to soften almost imperceptibly. "Such a gamble," he finally rasped, his voice raw. "To forego an entire history of expansion, of growth, for an unseen threat, for an unproven solution, and then to share it freely. It defies all known strategic logic." Then, after another pause, a low, guttural sound escaped him, something akin to a sigh. "But perhaps this is a logic we should have learned long ago." The Catharan ascendancy, renowned for its pragmatism and its unwavering dedication to survival, had, it seemed, just found a new, terrifying, and profoundly compelling reason to reconsider its entire worldview. The path to unity, previously a slow, arduous crawl, had just been accelerated to the speed of light, driven by the cold, hard truth of a dying cosmos and the unexpected, overwhelming generosity of a species that had, for so long, remained in the silent shadows. The transition from a state of galactic apprehension to one of burgeoning, if still slightly bewildered, cooperation was not instantaneous, but it was remarkably swift. The veracity of humanity's data, painstakingly analyzed by the Conquered's most esteemed scientists, proved irrefutable. The quantum coherence fluctuations, once dismissed as background noise or instrument error, became terrifyingly real when viewed through the lens of human methodologies. The slow, insidious decay of spacetime coherence was indeed happening, accelerating at an alarming rate. The chilling projections of cosmic entropy, of systems winking out of existence, of FTL lanes becoming impassable, galvanized the conquered in a way no political threat ever could. It was an enemy without a face, without a fleet, yet infinitely more terrifying. The Grand Convocation Chamber, rather than dissolving into panic disarray, became a hub of unprecedented interspecies collaboration. Ambassador Sharma, Dr. Vance, and Kenji Tanaka moved with quiet efficiency among the conquered delegates, their calm professionalism a grounding force amidst the growing galactic anxiety. They presented detailed schematics of the Aegis network, explaining the intricate physics behind the spacetime stabilizers, the immense energy requirements, and the precise, quantum-level synchronization needed for the nodes to function as a cohesive whole. The greatest challenge, Dr. Vance explained during one of these prolonged, intense sessions, is not merely constructing the stabilizers, but placing them with absolute precision within the decay zones, calibrating them to the unique gravitational and energy signatures of each local stellar environment, and then powering them simultaneously with an output equivalent to a small star. The Arbiter is designed to do exactly that for the initial nodes, acting as a mobile primary power conduit and construction platform. But for the full network, for hundreds, thousands of such nodes across the entire galactic cluster, it will require a combined effort of unprecedented scale. Envoy Cathar, now a frequent presence at the diplomatic nexus, his initial hostility replaced by a grudging respect and a deep intellectual curiosity, pressed the issue. And what of the materials? The Lumina alloys, the Zalosian crystalline structures, the Aryan-forged composites, each species possesses unique material sciences. Will these suffice? Or does your Aegis network require materials beyond our current capabilities? Ambassador Sharma smiled, a genuine, warm expression that momentarily softened her usually grave demeanor. Envoy, this is where the genius of your diverse species truly shines. Humanity's approach, forged in isolation, was often one of making do with what our singular system provided. But your collective material sciences, your unique geological and astronomical resources, they offer a multitude of solutions we could only theorize. The Aegis network is designed to be adaptable. It can integrate a variety of core components, each optimized for specific functions, leveraging the strengths of each species' material expertise. We have brought our knowledge, we now seek to combine it with yours. Over the next few cycles, the Arbiter, still silently burning its 1,000 engines above Xylo's prime, became a symbol not of threat, but of a shared future. Conquered engineers, physicists, and strategists were granted unprecedented access to its inner workings. They marveled at the sheer audacity of its design, its self-sustaining systems, its unique form of FTL drive that didn't breach subspace, but subtly folded spacetime, allowing for near-instantaneous transit without the destructive wake of conventional warp fields. This, they realized, was why humanity had never been detected. Their method of travel was so fundamentally different, it had simply rendered them invisible to all existing long-range sensors. The political landscape of the conquered began to shift dramatically. Ancient rivalries softened under the weight of the cosmic threat. Resource disputes, once paramount, now seemed petty. Species that had historically viewed each other with suspicion found themselves united under the banner of survival, guided by the serene, unwavering logic of the human envoys. The humans did not dictate. They advised, they explained, they provided solutions, and they consistently emphasized the necessity of shared ownership, of a truly unified, multi-species effort. They did not seek power, but collaboration. Valeria watched this transformation with a profound sense of awe. Humanity, in its long isolation, had not merely solved technological puzzles. It had transcended the very psychological barriers that often plagued advanced civilizations. They seemed to operate from a place of deep, almost spiritual, equilibrium, unburdened by the petty squabbles of ego or the territorial instincts of nascent empires. Their ethical framework, born of their millennia-long self-reflection, was robust, logical, and universally applicable. They were powerful, yes, but their power was wielded with an almost surgical precision of purpose, always directed towards preservation, never dominance. The first Aegis network node began construction in the deep space shipyards above Lumina Prime, a collaborative marvel of engineering where K-Theran architects worked alongside Xylosian materials specialists, guided by human schematics. The Arbiter became the blueprint for dozens of new, smaller orbital forges, specialized construction vessels designed to build and deploy the Aegis stabilizers. The 1,000 engines burned on the Arbiter provided the template for a new generation of power cores, a technology humanity freely shared, transforming the Concord's energy infrastructure almost overnight. Just as the first true sense of unity began to solidify, just as the galaxy began to believe it had comprehended the full scope of humanity's purpose and their monumental undertaking, a new, far older ripple spread through the cosmos. It was not a physical phenomenon, nor a detectable energy signature. It was a pattern, a sequence of quantum entanglement fluctuations detected by humanity's deep space observation network, which had now been integrated with the Concords. A pattern so ancient, so intricate, it defied all known computational analysis. Ambassador Sharma convened an emergency session of the now fully integrated Concord Humanity Council. Her face, usually serene, held a hint of grim fascination. Council members, for the past few cycles, our expanded network has been detecting an anomalous signal. It is not energetic. It is not electromagnetic. It is a form of hyper-entangled quantum data, propagated across vast interstellar distances with no detectable latency. Our most advanced AI has been struggling to parse its complexity. However, we have made a breakthrough. Kenji Tanaka activated a new holographic projection. This one was entirely different from the previous ones. It showed not stars or decaying spacetime, but a series of abstract, geometric forms, constantly shifting and evolving, overlaid with intricate, swirling glyphs. They were not a language in the conventional sense, but a mathematical and conceptual representation that seemed to operate on a metalinguistic level. This signal, Tanaka explained, his voice low, has been traveling through the void for incalculable epochs. We believe it predates the formation of this galactic cluster. It originates from the deep intergalactic void, from a direction that contradicts all known expansion models of our local group. It is a message, and we have finally begun to interpret its core meaning. Dr. Vance stepped forward, her expression a mix of awe and profound trepidation. The signal is a warning. It describes the very decay we are attempting to mitigate, but on a cosmic scale, affecting entire superclusters. It describes it not as a natural entropic process, but as a deliberate act, a pruning, a cosmic harvesting. By an intelligence so vast, so ancient, so utterly beyond our comprehension, that it perceives entire galaxies as ephemeral gardens to be tended or cut down when they reach a certain stage of development or decay. A stunned silence enveloped the chamber, far deeper, far more terrifying than any before. The space-time decay, the existential threat they were actively fighting, was not a cosmic accident. It was a conscious, deliberate action. They were not fighting entropy, they were fighting a cosmic gardener. A cosmic harvesting, Valeria whispered, her tendrils almost completely devoid of light, her voice barely audible. An intelligence that prunes galaxies, what does it seek? What is its purpose? Ambassador Sharma's gaze swept across the bewildered, terrified faces of the council members, alien and human alike. The signal is not entirely clear on its motivations. It speaks of maintaining cosmic balance, of preventing chaotic overgrowth, of cycles of regeneration. But the implication is clear. The decay we are fighting is not merely a natural process. It is a targeted, systematic thinning, a preparation for something else. And our Aegis network, in attempting to stabilize these regions, is directly interfering with this harvesting process. We are, in essence, defying a cosmic will, an intelligence that views us as little more than biological fluctuations in its vast, millennia-spanning garden. Cathar, his compound eyes wide with a newfound horror, uttered a sound that was a low, guttural growl of pure primal fear. Then our Aegis network, it is a declaration of war against this entity, an act of defiance that will bring its full attention down upon us. We are so infinitesimally small, so utterly insignificant. Ambassador Sharma nodded slowly. Perhaps, but humanity in its long introspection learned a crucial truth, that even the smallest flame of consciousness, of self-determination, holds an intrinsic value that is worthy of defense, even against an infinite darkness. The signal also contained a curious addendum, a set of complex mathematical coordinates, hinting at a singular, stable point beyond the known galactic cluster, an anomaly untouched by the decay, a cosmic sanctuary, perhaps even a seed bank from which new life might one day emerge if the harvest is complete. We believe this is either a final, mocking gesture or a subtle, perhaps even unintentional, offer of a path to long-term survival for a fraction of what remains. She paused, her gaze resting on each species in turn, her eyes holding a profound, almost sorrowful weight. We embarked on the Aegis project to save ourselves, and in doing so to save you. We believed we were fighting an impersonal force. Now we know we are fighting something intelligent, but our purpose remains unchanged. We will continue the construction of the Aegis network. We will continue to defy this cosmic harvest. Because to simply surrender, to allow ourselves to be systematically pruned from existence, is a violation of the very essence of sentient life. It is to deny the right to strive, to learn, to grow. And humanity, having finally emerged from its long, silent journey of self-mastery, will not yield. We will stand. And we invite you, our new allies, to stand with us, in defiance of an ultimate cosmic fate, and to fight for the future of all life in this galaxy, against a foe beyond all comprehension. The chamber remained in a deep, trembling silence, absorbing the immensity of this new, terrifying truth. The fight against entropy had become a fight against a god. And humanity, the species that had missed every galaxy meeting, that had parked 1,000 burning engines above them, had not come to merely join the galactic community, but to rally it, to unite it, against a threat so ancient and so vast that it redefined existence itself. The choice was clear, stark, and terrifying. Surrender to the cosmic pruning, or stand with humanity, a fragile, defiant flicker of life against the immeasurable darkness of a conscious, universal harvest. The weight of this decision, the philosophical and existential gravity of it, settled upon the conquered, heavy and undeniable, pushing them towards a unity forged not just in common survival, but in a shared, profound act of cosmic rebellion. The silence was broken only by the soft, rhythmic hum of the chamber's life support, now seeming like the heartbeat of a galaxy choosing its ultimate destiny.